Greetings to you all. I welcome you all to my zoology class, lesson 12, Trends in Economic Zoology. How they are useful to us, how animals are useful to us, and how can we build up our career. All these things are discussed here. First of all, zoology. You all know what is zoology. It is the study about animals, isn't it? For someone who is interested in pursuing a career in zoology, there are several specializations that students can venture into. There are physiologists who study the metabolic process of animal. Taxonomists, they used to deal with the naming and classification of animal species. Embryologists, they used to study and focus on the early development stages of animal life. Zoology as a career has a number of specializations, and students are presented with plethora of career options once they choose to associate with this field. This field is concerned with the preservation and management of animal kingdom, and a career in it would mean that you are a part of that responsibility. A zoologist might even get to travel because the nature of his or her job. Channels like National Geography, Animal Planet, and Discovery Channel are in constant need of zoologists for research and documentaries. Zoologists are also hired for zoos, wildlife service, botanical garden, conservation organizations, national park, nature reserves, universities, laboratories, aquarium, animal clinics, fisheries and aquaculture, museum, research, pharmaceutical companies, veterinary hospitals, etc. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to learn the method of culturing farm animals and their importance, since farm animals possess great economic value. If you want to have farm, you have to know everything. Okay, then since prehistoric time, human beings taken maximum advantages from animals by keeping them under the control through domestication. The economic process of industries based on animals and their products depends on the proper production, management and development of the next generation of farm animals. Studying zoology can provide self-employment opportunities, and you can become an entrepreneur. Economic zoology is the branch of science that deals with economically useful animals. It involves the study of application of animals for human welfare. The need of zoology is not just to improve our economic conditions, but also to provide food security and provide employment opportunities. Based on the economic importance, animals can be categorized as animals for food and food products, economically beneficial animals, animals of aesthetic importance, animals for scientific research. First one, earthworm. Vermiculture. Vermiculture is the process of using earthworm to decompose organic food waste into nutrient-rich material capable of supplying necessary nutrients which help to sustain plant growth. The aim is to continually increase the number of worms to have sustainable harvest. The excess worms can be can either be used to expand a vermicomposting operation or sold to consumer. Vermicompost is the primary goal of vermiculture. Technically, the worm castings are pure worm waste and are fine and nutrient-rich organic soil amendment. Vermicompost, on the other hand, is comprised of castings, bits of bedding, and other organic matter. Essentially, though the terms are used interchangeably, they are both worm mature and valuable for improving soil health. Applications of earthworm in technology of composting and bioremediation of soil and other activity is called vermitech. The disposal of soil waste, biodegradable and degradable and non-biodegradable, remains a serious challenge in most of the countries. Earthworms play a vital role in maintaining soil fertility. Hence, these worms are called as farmers' friends. Why they are called as farmers' friend? They are useful in degrading the waste material. So, and helpful in maintaining soil fertility. So, they are called as farmers' friends. They are also called as biological indicators of soil fertility. They indicate the nature of the soil. Okay, then the reason is that they support bacteria, fungi, protozoan and a host of other organisms which are essential for sustaining a healthy soil. The breakdown of organic matter by the activity of earthworm and its elimination from its body is called vermicast. It is finally divided granular material and is noted for its porosity, aeration, drainage and moisture holding capacity and serve as rich organic manure. Earthworms are divided into two major groups. The first group, the humus formers, dwell on the surface and feed on organic matter. They are generally darker in color. The worms are used for vermicomposting. The second group, the humus feeders, are burrowing worms that are useful in making the soil porous and mixing and distributing humus throughout the soil. There are different endemic species of earthworms cultivated in India for vermicomposting, such as Perionyx excavatus, Lambito maruti, Octochaetona serrata. Some earthworm species have been introduced from other countries and they are called as exotic species. Example, Eisenia fetida, Eudrilus eugeniae. Vermicompost is the compost product by the action of earthworm in association with all other organisms in the compost unit. Vermicompost bed may be selected on upland or an elevated level as it prevents the stagnation of water. You may construct a cement pit of 3 into 2 into 1 meter size, that is length, width and depth, overground surface using bricks. The size of pit may vary as per availability of raw material. Cement pot or well rings are partially good or practically good. Provision should be made for excess water to drain. The vermi bed should not be exposed to direct sunlight and hence shade may be provided. The first layer of vermi bed contains gravel at about 5 centimeter in height, followed by coarse sand to the thickness of 3.5 centimeter, which will facilitate the drainage of excess water. Earthworms are collected from native soil, prefer a layer of local soil in their compost beds. If local soil earthworms are used, add a layer of native loamy soil for about 15 cm on top of the gravel sand layer and introduce worms in it. For exotic species such as Eisenia foetida and Eudrilus eugeniae, the layer of soil is not needed. The unit can now be loaded with digested biomass or animal dung such as cow dung that has lost its heat. The number of earthworms to be introduced into an unit depend on the size of the vermi bed prepared. Earthworms such as Perionyx excavatus, Eisenia foetida or Eudrilus eugeniae are introduced on the top. Jute bags or cardboards or broad leaves are used to cover the unit. As worms require moisture, water management is most important for the survival of the earthworm. Too little or too much of water is not good for worms. Earthworms release their castings on the surface. One can start harvesting this from the surface on noticing the castings on the surface. It may take several days for the entire biomass to be composed depending on the amount of biomass. When all the compost is harvested, earthworms can be can-picked by creating a small conical heaps of harvested compost and leaving in sunlight for few hours. The earthworm then move down and settle at the bottom of the heap as a cluster. Earthworms from the lower layer of compost can be recovered and the worms can be transferred to new composting units. Next one, vermi wash. Vermi wash is a liquid collected after the passage of water through a column of vermi bed. It is useful as a foliar spray to enhance plant growth and yield. It is obtained from the burrows or drillospheres formed by earthworms. Nutrient plant growth promoter substances and some useful microorganisms are present in vermi wash. Pests and diseases. Earthworms are subjected to attack by a variety of pests. Most outbreaks are the result of poor bed management. Earthworm enemies include ants, springtails, centipedes, slugs, mites, certain beetles larvae, birds, rat, snakes, mice, toad and other insects or animals which feed on worms. The earthworm has number of internal parasites including numerous protozoa and nematodes and the larvae of certain flies. Larger predators can be excluded from the worm beds by proper construction of bins and by the use of screens or gratings at the bottom and top of the beds. Advantages of using vermicompost. People are aware about benefits of organic input in farming. Vermicompost is excellent organic manure for sustainable agro practices. So, marketing vermicompost is now a potential and flourishing industry. Retail marketing of vermicompost in urban area is most promising. Vermicompost is nearly packed in a designed and printed packets for sale. People of different age groups are involved in the production and selling of vermicompost. Marketing of vermicompost can provide a supplementary income. Advantages of using vermicompost. Vermicompost is rich in essential plant nutrients. It improves soil structure, texture, aeration, and water holding capacity and prevents soil erosion. Vermicompost is rich in nutrients and eco-friendly amendment to soil for farming, terrace gardening. It enhances seed germination and ensures good plant growth. Vermicompost manufacturing unit is plagued by number of red ants. The next one, sericulture. பட்டு பூச்சி வளர்ப்பு. Silk is nature's gift to mankind and a commercial fiber of animal origin other than wool. Being eco-friendly, biodegradable and self-sustaining material, silk has assumed special relevance in present age. Sericulture is an agro-based industry, the term which denotes commercial production of silk through silkworm rearing. Historical evidence reveals that sericulture was practiced in China long back, and they preserved the secret for more than 3,000 years and maintained monopoly in silk trade with the rest of the world. According to Western historians, mulberry cultivation spread to India about 140 BC from China through Tibet. The famous silk from China and India were carried to European countries. The 700-mile lengthy road, historically called the Silk Road, passing through Baghdad, Tashkent, Damascus, and Istanbul, was used for silk transport. Today, more than 29 countries in the world are practicing sericulture and producing different kinds of silk. India stands second in the production next to China. The production of silk from silkworm by rearing practices on commercial scale is called sericulture. It is an agro-based industry comprising three main components. Important 2-mark question. It is cultivation of wood plants for silkworm, rearing silkworm, and reeling and spinning of silk. The first two are agricultural and the last one is an industrial component. Only few species of silkworm are used in the sericulture industry. See the different types of silkworm. Bombyx mori. Silk producing states are given. The preferred food is mulberry, and the silk is called as mulberry silk. அடுத்தது next Anthraea asamenis feed on chamba leaves and the silk is called as muga. Anthraea mylitta feed on arjun leaves. The silk produced is tussar silk, Atracus ricini. It used to feed on castor leaves, and the silk is called as eri silk. It is an important question, Lanet. Then life cycle of Bombyx mori. The adult of Bombyx mori is about 2.5 cm in length and pale creamy white in color. Due to heavy body and feeble wings, flight is not possible by the female moth. This moth is unisexual in nature and does not feed during its very short life period of 2 to 3 days. Just after emergence, the male moth copulates with the female for about 2 to 3 hours and it is not separated. They may die after few hours of copulating with female. Just after copulation, female starts egg laying, which is completed in 24 hours. A single female moth lays 400 to 500 eggs depending upon the climatic condition. Two types of eggs are generally found, namely diapers type and non-diapers type. The diapers type is laid by silkworm inhabiting the temperate region, whereas silkworms belonging to subtropical region like India lay non-diapers type of eggs. The eggs after 10 days of incubation hatch into larva called as caterpillar. See, these are the different stages of caterpillar. The newly caterpillar is about 3 mm in length and is pale yellowish white in color. The caterpillars are provided well-developed mandibulate type of mouthpart adapted to feed easily on the mulberry leaves. After first, second, third and fourth molting, caterpillars get transformed into second, third, fourth and fifth instar respectively. These are the different instar caterpillars. It takes about 21 to 25 days after catching. The fully grown caterpillar is 7.5 cm in length. It develops salivary gland, stops feeding and undergo pupation. The caterpillar stops feeding and move towards the corner among the leaves and secretes a sticky fluid through their silk gland. The secreted fluid comes out through the spinneret. Spinneret is a narrow pore situated on the hypopharynx and takes the form of long fine thread silk which hardens on exposure to air and is wrapped around the body of caterpillar in the form of a covering called cocoon. See cocoon, yellow color. It is the white colored bed of the pupa whose outer threads are irregular while the inner threads are regular. The length of continuous thread secreted by a caterpillar for the formation of cocoon is about 1000 to 1200 meters, which requires 3 days to complete. The pupal period lasts for 10 to 12 days and the pupae cut through the cocoon and emerge into adult moth. See, on the basis of the molt which they undergo During their larval life, Bombyx mori is divided into three races: Trimoltus, Tetramoltus, Pentamoltus. Based on volatinism is the number of broods raised per year. Three kinds of races are recognized in mulberry silkworm. They are univoltinous, bivoltinous, and multivoltinous. Uni 1 by 2, multi means more than 2 broods. India has the distinction of producing all the four types of silk. Mulberry silk 91.7%, Tassar silk 1.4%, Eric silk 6.4%, Muga silk 0.5%, which are produced by different species of silkworms. Cultivation of food plants for the silkworm. The first component is to grow the food plants for silkworm. Mulberry leaves are widely used as food for silkworm Bombyx mori. The cultivation of mulberry is called moriculture. Presently, improved mulberry varieties like Victory 1, S36, G2 and G4, which can withstand various agroclimatic and soil conditions, are used for planting. The favorable season for cultivating of mulberry plant is June, July, November and December. The mulberry crop production technology include land preparation of cutting, planting techniques, maintenance of mulberry nursery, disease and pest management, uprooting for raising new mulberry gardens. Mulberry is also being grown as tree plant at a height of 123 to 152 centimeter with 20 into 20 centimeter or 25 into 25 centimeter spacing to harvest better silk cocoon crops. The second component is the rearing of silkworm. A typical rearing house 6 meter, 4 meter and 3.5 meter dimension is constructed on a elevated place under shade to accommodate 100 disease-free layings. Space of 1 meter should be provided surrounding the rearing house. Sufficient windows, ventilators should be provided for free circulation of air inside the rearing house. The windows and ventilators should be covered with nylon net to resist the entry of UC flies and other insects. Apart from the specified area of rearing house, the following appliances such as hygrometer, power sprayers, rearing stands, foam pads, wax coated paraffin papers, nylon nets, basket for keeping leaves, gunny bugs, rotary or bamboo mountages, dryer. These appliances are needed for effective rearing of silkworm. The steps involved in rearing process of silkworm are disinfection of rearing house, incubation of eggs, brushing, young larval rearing, late age larval rearing. The selected healthy silk moths are allowed to mate for 4 hours. The female moth is then kept in dark plastic bed. It lays about 400 eggs in 24 hours. The female is taken out, crushed and examined for any disease. Only certified disease-free eggs are reared for industrial purpose. The eggs are incubated in an incubator. The small larvae or caterpillar catch between 7 to 10 days. These larvae are kept in trays inside a rearing house at a temperature of about 20 degrees centigrade to 25 degrees centigrade. These are first fed on chopped mulberry leaves. After 4 to 5 days, fresh leaves are provided. As the larvae grow, they are transferred to fresh leaves on a clean trays. When fully grown, they spin cocoons. The maturity is achieved in about 45 days. At this stage, the salivary gland or silk gland starts secreting silk to spin cocoon. Post-cocoon processing. The method of obtaining silk thread from cocoon is known as post-cocoon processing. This includes stifling and reeling. The process of killing the cocoon is called stiffing. The process of removing the thread from the killed cocoon is called reeling. For reeling silk, the cocoons are gathered about 8 to 10 days after spinning had begun. The cocoons are first treated by steam and dry heat to kill the insect inside. This is necessary to prevent the destruction of continuous fiber by the emergence of the mouth. If they emerge, the cocoon will cut open. So you can't get the long thread. So we have to kill and we have to remove the thread without breaking. The cocoons are then soaked in hot water at the temperature of 95 to 97 degrees centigrade for 10 to 15 minutes to soften the gum that binds the silk thread together. This process is called cooking. The cooked cocoons are kept in hot water and the loose ends of the thread are caught by hand. Threads from several cocoons are wound together on spinning wheels or chakras to form the reels of raw silk. Only about one half of the silk of each cocoon is reelable. The remainder is used as a silk waste and formed into spun silk. The raw silk thus obtained is processed through several treatments to bring about the lusters on the thread, brightness. New silkworm diet produces colored silk. The Institute of Material Research and Engineering, IMRI, in Singapore has developed a way to replace the traditional dyeing process necessary to make colored silk. A simple dietary change, that is feeding the diet of mulberries treated with fluorescent dye for the silkworm larva, and they are able to produce silk in variety of colors. The colors directly integrated into the thread. Uses of silk. You know everything. Anyway, listen. Silk fibers are utilized in preparing silk cloth. Silk fibers are now combined with other natural or synthetic fiber to manufacture cloth like terry silk, cot silk, etc. Silk is dyed and printed to prepare ornamented fabrics. They are generally made from eri silk or spun silk. Silk is used in industries and for military purpose. It is used in the manufacture of fishing fiber, parachute, cartridge, bags, insulation coils for telephone, wireless receivers, tires of racing car, filter fibers in medical dressing, and as switches material. Switches material, the switches which are made after operation on our body. The profitable silk industry is threatened by various diseases caused by virus, fungal and bacterial and protozoan infection, but also by insect predators, birds and other higher animals. It must be free from disease and pest. Ants, crows, kites, rats feed upon the silkworms, thereby causing a great loss to silk industry. Febrile is a dangerous disease to silkworm, and the causative organism is Nosema bombycis. It is a protozoa. This silkworm disease is transmitted through the eggs of mother silkworm and also through ingestion of contaminated food. Flauchery generally occurs in the mature larvae and is caused mainly by bacteria like Streptococcus and Staphylococcus. Graseriae is a most dominant and serious viral disease. It is caused by Bombyx mori nuclear polyhedrosis virus, a baculovirus which belong to the subgroup A of the Baculoviridae. Among the fungal diseases, white muscardine is common. This disease is caused by fungus Beauveria bassiana. Then next one is apiculture. Care and management of honeybees on a commercial scale for the production of honey is called apiculture. தேன் வளர்க்கிறது beekeeping. Ever since the beginning of cultivation, man has been trying to make use of organism around him for various purposes and to rear them for increasing their number. One of the finest discoveries in our knowledge regarding is the procurement of honey collected by honeybees. Care and management of honeybees on a commercial scale for the production of honey is called apiculture or beekeeping. The word apiculture comes from the Latin word apis, meaning bee. Bees are reared in apiaries, that are areas where a lot of beehives can be placed. There are 5 well-recognized types of bees in the world. They are Apis dorsata, rock bee; Apis floreae, little bee; Apis indica, Indian bee; Apis melliferae, European bee; Apis adamsoni, African bee. Honeybee uses its long tube-like tongue to extract sugary liquid called nectar from the flower. Nectar is stored in the stomach and the enzyme invertase transforms it into honey. This increases the storage life of honey and also contributes to its medical value. See the bee colony. One queen bee, many worker bee, many drone. The last one is queen bee, lateral view. In honeybees, a highly organized division of labor is found. A well-developed honeybee colony consists of queen, drones, workers. All three types depend on each other for their existence. There is normally one queen bee, 10,000 to 30,000 workers, few hundred drones, that is male bee, in a colony. Queen bee is a functional female bee present in each hive and feeds on royal jelly. Its sole function is to lay eggs throughout its lifespan. The virgin queen bee mates only once in her life. During the breeding season in winter, a unique flight takes place by the queen bee, followed by the several drones. This flight is called nuptial flight. The queen bee produces a hormonal chemical substance called pheromone. The drones in the area are attracted to the pheromone and mating takes place. During mating, the drone releases large number of sperms for sufficient fertilization. In the lifespan of 2 to 4 years, a queen bee lays about 15 lakh eggs. When the queen bee loses its capacity to lay eggs, another worker bee starts feeding on royal jelly and develops into a new queen. Worker bees. Among honeybees, workers are sterile females and smallest, but yet function as mainspring of the complicated machinery in the colony. Worker bee lives in a chamber called worker cell, and it takes about 21 days to develop from the egg to adult, and its lifespan is about 6 weeks. Each worker has to perform different types of work in their lifetime. During the first half of her life, she becomes a nurse bee, attending to indoor duties such as secretion of royal jelly, prepares bee bread to feed the larvae, feeds the queen, takes care of the queen and drones, secretes bee wax, builds homes, cleans and fans the beehive. Then she becomes the soldier and guards the beehive. In the second half of her life, lasting for 3 weeks, she searches and gathers the pollen, nectar, propolis and water. Drone. The drone is the functional male member of the colony, which develops from the unfertilized egg. It lives in the chamber called drone cell. Drones totally depend on workers for honey. The sole duty of the drone is to fertilize the virgin queen, hence called king of the colony. During swarming, that is the process of leaving the colony by the queen with a large group of worker bees to form a new colony. The drones follows the queen, copulates and dies after copulation. See the structure of beehive. The house of honeybee is termed as beehive or bee home. The hive consists of Hexagonal cells made up of wax secreted by the abdomen of worker bees arranged in opposite rows on a common base. These hives are found hanging vertically from the rocks, building, or branches of trees. The young stages of honeybee accommodate the lower, and the central cells of the hive are called brood cells. The young stage used to accommodate the lower and central cells. They are called as brood cells. In Apis dorsata, the brood cells are similar in size and shape, but in other species, the brood cells are of three types. They are queen cell for queen, worker cell for workers, drone cells for drones. The cells are intended for storage of honey and pollen in the upper portion of the home, whereas the lower portion for brood rearing. You can also adapt beekeeping in your home. Now you can get ideas from this. This is the beehive. Methods of beekeeping. The main objective is to get more and more quality honey. There are two methods used by apiculturists. They are indigenous method and modern method. In indigenous method, the honey extracted from the home contains wax. To overcome the drawbacks of indigenous method, the modern methods have been developed to improve the texture of hives. In India, there are two types of beehives in practice, namely Langstroth and Newton. The Langstroth beehive is made up of wood and consists of 6 parts. See, first one, stand. It's the basal part of the hive on which the hive is constructed. The stands are adjusted to make slope for rain water to drain. Then the bottom board is situated above the stand and forms the proper base for the hive. It has 2 gates. One gate functions as an entrance while the other acts as an exit. Brood chamber. Brood chamber is the most important part of the hive. It is provided with 5 to 10 frames arranged one above the other, through which the worker can easily pass. The frames is composed of wax sheet, which is held in vertical position up by a couple of wires. Every sheet of wax is known as home foundation. The home foundation helps in obtaining regular strong worker brood cell home, which can be used repeatedly. Supper is also a chamber without cover and base. It is provided with many frames containing home foundation to provide additional space for expansion of the hive. The next one is inner cover. It is a wooden piece used for covering the supper with many holes for proper ventilation. Top cover. It is meant for protecting the colonies from rains. It is covered with sheet which is plain and sloping. Besides the above primary equipment, the other accessory equipments are used in beekeeping. Queen excluder is utilized to prevent the entry of queen bee from the brood chamber into the super chamber. Home foundation is a sheet of beeswax on both sides, which the exact shape of different cells of combs made in advance. Bee gloves are used by keepers for protecting their hands while inspecting the hives. Bee veil is a device made of fine nettings to protect the beekeeper from bee sting. Smoker is used to scare the bees during hive maintenance and honeybee collection by releasing smoke. Hive tools is a flat, narrow and long piece of iron which helps in scraping excess propolis or wax from hive parts. Uncapping knife is a long knife which helps in removing the cap from the combs as the first step in honey extraction. Bee brush is a large brush often employed to brush off bees from honeycombs, particularly at the time of extraction. Queen introducing cage is a pipe made of wire nets used for keeping the queen for about 24 hours for acquaintance with the hive and worker bees. Feeder is a basin with sugar syrup covered by grass to feed the bees during drought season. The grass prevents the bees from sinking into syrup. Honey extractor is a stainless steel device which spins the combs rapidly to extract honey. Hive entrance guard is a device similar to queen excluded in front of the hive entrance which prevents the escape of queen during warming season. Economic importance of honey. The chief product of beekeeping industry are honey, beeswax. Honey is the healthiest substitute for sugars. The major constituents of honey are levulose, dextrose, maltose, other sugars, enzyme, pigments, ash and water. It is an aromatic sweet material derived from nectar of plants. It is a natural food. The smell and taste depends upon the pollen taken by the honey bee. It is used as an antiseptic, laxative and as a sedative. It is generally used in Ayurvedic and Unani system of medicine. It is also used in the preparation of cakes, breads and biscuits. Wax. Bee wax is secreted by the abdomen of the worker bee at the age of 2 weeks. The wax is masticated and mixed with the secretion of cephalic glands to convert into a plastic resinous substance. The resinous chemical substance present in the wax is called propolis, which is derived from pollen grains. The pure wax is white in color and the yellow color is due to the presence of carotenoid pigments. It is used for making candles, waterproofing materials, polishes for floors, furniture, appliances, leather and taps. It is also used for the production of home foundation sheet in beekeeping and used in pharmaceutical industries. Bees teach us a lesson to work with cooperation. Imagine the hard work of bees. A single honeybee travels about double the distance of the circumference of the Earth's globe for preparing 453.5 ml of honey. You can see the rest in the next. Okay, thank you.